Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Ruach Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS for teaching this truth. Peace and salutations to all the Yakim out there kicking this word in truth and sincerity. Okay, this is part 2 of edible plants. We'll go ahead and jump right in. Left off at burdock. We're going to jump into cattail. And a lot of y'all are pretty familiar with cattail, I assume. It's a common plant that grows around water. Let me get the tool here, the online tool. A couple of pictures there if you're not familiar with cattail. We'll go on to the habitat. Habitat, open wet areas, wet thickets, swamps, ditches, and moist fields. And that's about it. You're not going to find it growing anywhere else. Edible parts, the lower parts of the leaves can be used in a salad. The young stems can be eaten raw or boiled. The young flowers, that's the cattails that's on the very top, that are usually brown when they're not young, can be roasted. Yellow pollen appears midsummer of the cattail. Slocky, I'm going to start that again. Yellow pollen appears midsummer of the cattail. It can be added to pancakes for added nutrients. Shake the pollen into a paper bag and use it as a thickener in soups and stews, or mix it with flour for some great tasting bread. The root can be dried and pounded to make nutritious flour. The young shoots can be prepared like asparagus, but requires longer cooking time to make them tender. Added to soup towards the end of cooking, they retain a refreshing crunchiness. Now, something they don't really mention here is the bottom of it. Like, let's say you go grab a cattail and pluck it or break it down at the bottom of its stem where it snaps. It usually won't snap up high, but when you go to snap it, where it snaps down low, that part is also edible. It's kind of like palm hearts, or a lot like artichoke. I think they're talking about the young shoot, but even when it's an older plant, you can break it off and eat that bottom part. And look at the pictures. Just a couple of them, so it's a quick one. Nothing else looks like this. You're not going to confuse this for anything else. So I only grabbed a couple of pictures because this plant is so unique. Okay, we'll do chickweed. Pull up that tool. Show you a couple of pictures here in this slide. Really pay attention to the leaf shape and the little flowers, and then the way it creeps on the ground. Chickweed grows in many areas in a wide variety of habitats and soil textures. It is one of the most common weeds found in lawns, but it also grows well in cultivated fields, pastures, raised areas, and in some deciduous forest. The plant occurs in many countries. Edible parts, chickweed leaves are used by adding them to raw salads and sandwiches. Can be tossed into soups and stews as well. When adding to a cooked dish, The stems and flowers can also be used. We'll go to the pictures here. Now, of course, in a time of Jacob's trouble, you might not be able to cook a lot of these, but most of these, unless it says you need to cook them, you can eat raw. So yeah, pay attention to, like I said, the leaves, how they grow. You see they kind of grow in a parallel, what would you call this? Like a square shape, one across from the other. Here's a pretty strong identifier here, those red stems, and the fact that it's creeping along the ground. I don't think all of them have red stems, but you'll find some like that. Again, there's the leaves, little flower. They're not always going to have the flowers on them, of course. And it looks like these leaves, you can tell from the shadowing, that these are going to be thicker leaves. You see a little white lip on those leaves there. That'll be a pretty big identifier too. A lot of leaves are thin. This will be more like almost a succulent-like leaf. It's not a succulent, but a thicker leaf. And here's it growing on the ground. See these, the very bottom of that picture, how it kind of creeps on those long stems. And in this one, they're not red. Here's some growing next to it. Looks like a curb or patio. So it's creeping along the ground, and it's also creeping up the curve. We have a little bit of clover in there. We'll cover clover later. Yeah, just really pay attention to how it's growing. And that's a pretty big identifier. Again, there's some flowers. They're like multi-petaled flowers, but it looks like the flowers or the petals and the flowers are separated. Looks like by 2s and 4. Actually looks like what it's doing is separated by 4, 4, and 2, or 2, 2, 2, and 4. It's got this special pattern to the flower there, if you can't see that. Look at that there. It's a 4, 4, and 2 on that one up in the top corner. So that's a pretty big identifier as well. Okay, on to the next one. That'll be chicory. This one, obviously, that flower is a huge identifier. But like I said, not all these plants are going to have their flowers on them all the time. Flowers are fairly short-lived. Habitat: open areas, roadsides, grassy areas near parking lots, and weedy fields all over Ontario and most of Canada and the US. Edible parts are the leaves and the root. Although the flower is edible, it is very bitter. And that chicory root, you dry it and roast it, you can actually use that as a coffee substitute. Here's one in a field. Flower's a big identifier, of course. And then, it's not the best picture of the leaves, but pay attention to that leaf shape there, how it's elongated. See if I can get a better picture. Kind of the same deal. It actually has a leaf much like the dandelion. See, it's kind of That serrated leaf, still not the best picture. Here's a good one. That looks very much like dandelion as far as the leaves go. Which is okay. There's not that many plants that have this this leaf style that you're gonna find that'll get you sick. It's really just from my experience, only a couple. So yeah, this is the plant without the flower on it. Here's some white flowers, they're not always purple. And here's another plant without the flowers on it. Again, looks so much like dandelion leaves. Got a couple diagrams here. Okay, on to the next. Let's go to garlic mustard here. Habitat grows across many areas of Canada and the US along fence lines, wooded areas, swamps, ditches, roadsides, railway embankments, and takes advantage of undisturbed areas. This plant is often found in open, disturbed forest. Edible parts, flowers, leaves, roots, seeds. Leaves in any season can be eaten, but once the weather gets hot, the leaves taste bitter. Now, in a situation where you don't have enough food, that bitterness is probably going to bother you, but starving is probably going to bother you even more. So you can probably get over that bitter taste. Flowers can be chopped and tossed into salads. The roots can be collected in early spring and again in late fall, when no flower stalks are present. So basically that's because when it has the flower stalks present, all that energy and a lot of the nutrition is pulled out of the roots and pushed into the flower. So you're not going to get much nutrition, or you're not going to get good quality roots essentially. So you want to wait till it doesn't have that flower and flower stalk on it. Garlic mustard roots taste very spicy, somewhat like horseradish. In the fall, the seed can be collected and eaten. This is a very unique leaf pattern out of what we've looked at so far. But pay attention to how some of those leaves are red in there, the serration of the leaves, how they're a little crinkly. There's the flowers and the flower stalk. Notice the flowers only have 4 petals. And that leaf is kind of like a serrated heart shape. Here's a stand of them. Looks like the leaves get pretty dang big. And the flowers on the stalks. And this is a pretty big identifier here. Those flower stalks have these little tendrils growing off of them and growing upwards toward the flower. Here's a stand of them without the flower stalks growing on the ground. Notice these leaves aren't exactly the same as the other ones. They're not. They still have that kind of have that heart shape to them, but not as pointy at the end. And again, you'll run into a lot of different plants, a lot of different varieties of the same plant, which they'll look slightly different in some ways. Once you start getting really good at identifying, you'll be able to pick up on the difference. You'll be able to pick up on the plant regardless of the differences. Get a little close up here. Look at the veins on those leaves too, how they have like an indent on them. It's not necessarily just a flat leaf. Go back to that first plant. See how the veins are indented? Looks kind of like a scale of a reptile, that leaf. Pretty big identifier. And then here's a stand of them. Some of them with the flower stalks, and then some of them in the early season, they don't have the flower stalks yet. So this looks like it's the same species. Notice the difference between the leaves, though. Those are more of like the spade shape, the ones on the ground here. And then once it starts getting taller, they're more of that pointy, there's that one right there in the center, pointy heart shape. Textures, though, that indented veining on the plant, that'll be the same. So that's probably one of the best identifiers for that plant. That and the flowers, of course. Okay. We'll do one more. And on to the next one. Japanese knotweed. Look at that leaf, look at those flowers, those stalks especially. I think I have that same picture. And then I think that's a bean pod on there. Look at that stalk, the reddish green effect there in that stalk. Habitat. Japanese knotweed can tolerate a variety of adverse conditions, including dense shady areas, high temperatures, high salinity soils, and drought. Knotweed is commonly found near water sources, in low-lying areas, waste areas, and around home sites. Japanese knotweed is native to Japan and grows in Canada, US, England, and some parts of Europe, Australia, New Zealand, China, Korea, East Asia. Edible parts. The best edible part of this plant are the young shoots, preferably when they are about 15 to 20 centimeters tall. And I think I have a picture of that. Depending on your taste buds, you may think they have a lemony taste. Some say it is more like rhubarb. Young shoots can be consumed raw or cooked, and the growing tips and the unfurled leaves on the stalks and branches are edible. Stems can be sliced and steamed, simmered in soups, used in sauces, jams, and fruit compotes. Japanese knotweed is a great source of vitamins A and C. It also provides many vital minerals, including iodine, and is loaded with resveratrol. On to some pictures here. Now this is a pretty unique looking plant. It actually kind of looks like bamboo. It has those red stalks. That's going to be the biggest identifier for this plant, is those stalks. Of course, you can catch it during the flowering season. Nope, wrong plant. Here you go. It's not as upright in this picture, but still, you can zoom in, you can see it has those red stalks. Pay attention to the leaf shape. Here's some young shoots that it was talking about here, with the leaves that are unfurling still. Nice stand of them. Looks like it's alongside of a road or a hiking trail, possibly. And a pile of young shoots. Go back and check that one picture out. Here's some some flowers as well. But again, that stalk is going to be the largest identifier for this plant. So we'll stop it there, and I'll catch you on the next one. Shalom.